Hello, everyone. My name is Andrea Gunraj, and I am with the Canadian Women's Foundation, and I have Paulette Senior, our president and CEO at the Canadian Women's Foundation. Hi, Paulette.
Hi.
So I want to just thank everybody for joining us on this very special live stream for our October campaign called Show Up for Girls. And I know that you've heard about this already, but you might just want to be reminded that we're raising awareness about the reality that girls and gender diverse young people are experiencing right now. They're facing a lot of new challenges in the pandemic, and we're asking everybody to show our support for them. And the Canadian Women's Foundation, for those who may be new to us, we're Canada's public foundation for gender equality. We support diverse women, girls, and anyone impacted by gender inequality to move out of violence, out of poverty, and into confidence and leadership. Supporting grassroots programs for girls and gender diverse youth is a really important part of what we do to build a gender equal Canada. And I just want to remind us that the work that we do and the programs that we support at the Canadian Women's Foundation takes place on First Nations, Métis, and Inuit land. We are grateful for the opportunity to meet and work on this land, and we're committed to pursuing truth, reconciliation, decolonization, and allyship in an ongoing effort to make right with all our relations. As we talk today, I'm just going to remind you, please put your questions below and we'll get a chance to see it. And don't click on any links that you don't recognize. Sometimes social media is a scary place, and I don't want anybody to have anything happen that they are not going to be wanting to happen. And if we get cut off, of course, just hang tight and we'll jump back on. As I mentioned, we're dedicating the whole month of October to address the profoundly gendered impact of the pandemic on girls who need our support more than ever. And we're really thrilled to have the support of soccer star and FIFA goal leader all time, Christine Sinclair. She showed up for girls and she's been our campaign champion. We're also really grateful and happy to have the support of Giant Tiger and Sinking Ship Entertainment, our two partners on this campaign. Up until October 31st, they're matching all donations to the campaign of up to $20,000. They're turning every dollar you donate into $3, which is awesome. And it'll all go to our Girls Fund to provide programming all over the country, specifically for girls aged 9 to 13. As we know, this is a crucial age range when girls face big pressures and come up against a lot of stereotyping, and their confidence and their mental health tend to take a hit. So the Girls Fund's programs, of course, are there to boost girls' resilience and build a sense of community and self. And we're going to speak to some folks who are doing grassroots work all across the country for girls, and we're really excited about that. But before we get started, I want to let you know that if you want to support the Girls Fund, you can give right now. Go to CanadianWomen.org. And you will see that we have a big goal of $75,000 to raise before the end of October. October 31st is our deadline. So if you can give today, now's the time to go to CanadianWomen.org and give now. $1 turns to $3. It's a great time to give. So, Paulette, thank you for joining us. We're going to jump to you. Thank you for your patience as I went through the preamble.
No, thanks for having me. I'm happy to join you.
So Paulette Senior is the Canadian Women's Foundation president and CEO. She's an awesome person to work with, and we love her. And we want to talk about the impacts on girls and why we all need to show up today. Why girls and why now?
Well, Andrea, first of all, I'm really happy to be here. Thankful that we have this opportunity to really, as you say, show up for girls and to be doing this campaign. And why girls and why now? I think I have a bit of a long answer for you. So just kind of sit tight and I'll try and go through all of the things that I think will adequately answer that question. First, really deserve every all this is a critical stage in their lives. These programs
we seem to be having a bit of
evaluations indicate that
sorry about that,
5%
seem to have a bit of roughness. Can you start over again with your piece?
Oh, sure. I'll start from the beginning.
Thank
Is that
you.
okay? Okay. All right. Well, the question you asked me is why girls and why now? And I think what I said was that girls are absolutely resilient, they're brilliant, and that they deserve every chance that we can give them to shine, but they don't always get to have the unique supports that they need as their lives are busy and multifaceted. So that's why the foundation funds programs that support girls who are between the ages of 9 to 13, which, as we all can appreciate, is a critical stage in their lives. And what we know for sure, based on our evaluations, is that these programs work. So, for example, we know that 75% of participants in the girls' programs we fund feel more resilient. We know 62% of participants feel more confident, and we know over 90% of them go on to feel empowered in their futures. And these kinds of programs and results are even more urgent when we look at the mental health of girls in Canada right now. For years, the research has shown us that many girls experience a decline in mental health and confidence as they reach adolescence. So, in grade 6, for example, 36% of girls say they feel self-confident, but by grade 10, this actually plummets to only 14%. So that is a very sobering number. In 2019, girls aged 12 to 14 were more than twice as likely as boys to report fair to poor mental health. Now, in the wake of the pandemic that we're all living through, 57% of young people feel between the age of 15 to 17 have reported that their mental health is worse than it was before physical distancing measures were put in place. And if we all think back when we were young, how important it was to be among our friends. And so it's no less important today. Another heartbreaking fact is that children in racialized families have felt the impacts of the pandemic harder than children in white families. So they've struggled more, for example, with concerns about their family's ability to meet basic needs, and have in fact experienced more health consequences like poor sleep and lack of physical activity. On top of that, there are more uncertainties around their safety in school and in terms of their learning, their increased economic instability. Some of them are experiencing violence at home. And isolation from peers means that many girls struggle even more. Girl-focused community programs that the foundation supports serve as a lifeline to build a sense of belonging, community, and confidence, and mentorship for all girls: racialized girls, Indigenous girls, girls with disabilities, newcomer girls, trans and non-binary youth, girls living in rural, remote, or urban communities right across the country, you name it. It's very important no matter where girls live in Canada. So they provide safe spaces where participants can explore STEM, for example, health and physical activity, leadership, mentorship, media literacy, healthy relationships, and much more. But with the uncertainty and new barriers of the pandemic, many girls' programs have shared that they are struggling to meet needs and to even stay in operation. Girls' programs have had to quickly pivot, adapt, and it hasn't been easy for those who are working with girls. So, for instance, some have had to find ways to digitize and offer tools to participants in situations where access to tech and internet is quite limited. So, some have had to even reduce staff and volunteers for social distancing purposes, and to deal with the fact that resources are even more limited. So this is the answer to the long-winded answer, but very important answer, comprehensive response to your question in terms of why girls and why now. And that's why we decided we have to launch this campaign, and we have to get together. And together, we all have to show up for girls.
Paulette, thank you very much for that answer. I want to ask Paulette a question before we release her back to her busy schedule. But Paulette, I am just going to ask you this question. Why is it so important for girls, from your experience? You have shared with all of us what it meant to grow up as a girl in Canada, in Toronto. What would girls' programs have done for you if you had access to them when you were younger?
Well, you know what? I didn't have it, but what the difference it would have made in my life would have been probably tenfold when I was a kid. You know, I came to Canada at age 11 as an immigrant. And for me, I struggled. I really struggled. I didn't understand the culture. I didn't understand the difference in the school systems. I didn't understand because I came from a small rural community. So coming to a big city at that time was really tough for me. If there was a program that could have responded to the needs that I presented with, to my feelings of isolation, to my feelings of shock, to not understanding what certain things meant culturally, it would have made a huge difference. And you know, I think the thing that really helped me back in those days, because we had no COVID, we had no pandemic back then. So what really helped me was having friends who were also going through some of the same experiences. And that, I think, is what got me through. But imagine the suffering that I would have not have to go through if there was such a program for me.
Thank you very much for speaking to that piece around intersectionality. And I know that all the programs that we work with are really focused on making sure that girls get what they need. It's not a one size fits all approach. And it's really important for us to remember that. You also speak to some of the difficulties. I feel sorry for young people these days. It's a tough time.
Yeah, it is.
And I really think these girls' programs, like, they're trying to respond to the pandemic. And we're going to get into that in a bit, just speaking with folks actually doing this in our communities across the country in grassroots settings. But thank you very much, Paulette, for sharing with us. And we're going to release you to your busy schedule. We really appreciate your introduction here. Thank you.
All right. I look forward to hearing some of what your other participants have to say today. Take care.
Great. Thanks. So folks, as I mentioned, we are so happy and thrilled to have our guests with us, and we'll ask them to jump into the live stream if you don't mind. And we have some really amazing people who are just across the country. We're representing, I think, all the time zones today, which is awesome. I want to introduce folks to you. Anna McDonald, first of all, from Community Resource Center in Killaloe, Ontario. Hello, Anna.
Hello.
We have Karamjeet Jagdeo, Diversity Community Resources Society in Surrey, BC. Hello.
Hello, everyone.
We have Kathy Walsh, First Light, St. John's Native Friendship Center in St. John's, Newfoundland. Hello, Kathy.
Hello.
And we have Ira Rana, Women's Center of Calgary in Calgary, Alberta, representing. Hello, Ira.
Hello there. Hi.
Folks, we are so thrilled to have you. It's so lovely to see your faces and get a sense of what you're doing. I mean, we're in a screen reality nowadays, so it's really nice to just get the opportunity to speak directly with you. And the first question that I'm going to throw out to you folks, all of you, can you tell us why these programs are so necessary in your particular community? And what role do you see them playing in girls' lives? Maybe we'll start with you, Ira. Tell us about the Women's Center that you're working at and how that works out specifically for you.
So with the Women's Center specifically, we work with girls and women across Calgary, regardless of their race, age, gender, economic status. And basically, we work on 3 different aspects of their lives. One is getting assistance with basic needs, connecting with others, building a community, and working for change in our communities. Girls programs specifically, we really focus on girls having the opportunity to recognize their own leadership skills, empower themselves, and take actions to make change in their lives and communities. In Alberta, for example, 30% of MLAs are only women, and specifically 72% of managerial positions in Calgary and Edmonton are only held by women. On top of that, we don't see representation of LGBTQ plus community, people of color, and more. And it is very important that girls, on top of seeing representation of themselves in leadership positions, they feel capable of doing that and going for it. Most of the girls in our programs, they have said that they feel safe when they come here. 85% of them said that they became leaders after joining our program, and they feel like leaders. They feel like they can make a change. As you know, like in terms of why it's important for our communities here, I feel like the uniqueness about feminist approach is that it's very, it challenges the traditional notions of leader, like masculine, who can be a leader. So with our girls program, we definitely try to challenge the patriarchy, challenge the adultism that girls face all the time, in addition to racism, ableism, heterosexism, poverty, colonialism, and whatnot. We really believe that the girls are experts in their own lives, and they do have the agency to make change. So we try to empower that agency. And really, because girls are the future, we have to show up for them.
That's right. Thank you, Ira. And I'm going to jump to the East Coast. Kathy, tell us about the context that you're in and why girls' programs are so necessary there.
Yeah, absolutely. So being on the East Coast, I don't know if you guys have ever been to Newfoundland, but St. John's in particular is the urban setting within a giant population of rural people. And we service both Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples, hoping that they come together in a space of friendship. And so a lot of our programs service Indigenous girls that are living in this urban setting surrounded by the non-Indigenous society. So a lot of their struggles, are the typical girl struggles that we all have mentioned so far, but on top of that, they're also away from a lot of their Indigenous communities, their cultural teachings, and their general ways of life that they would normally experience if they were, say, back home in a rural setting. So a lot of our girls feel out of place, and that is a daily struggle for them in school, when they get their first jobs. They're always just a little bit different than everyone else. And we teach them through our girls programs that that's not something to be afraid of or ashamed of. It's actually your strength. So a lot of the stuff that we do in our programs will teach them that all of the stuff that they were afraid about themselves is actually something that can get them that job in the future, that can make them stand out in class in an awesome way. And without these programs, these girls wouldn't be surrounded by their strong female Indigenous leaders. They wouldn't be surrounded by their Indigenous teachings. They wouldn't have access to things like their smudging ceremonies. So without all of these programs, they're kind of put into this urban setting, this non-Indigenous setting, without any support, and they can't thrive in an environment like that when their Indigenous culture is so important to them.
Thank you, Kathy. I really appreciate that. I'm hearing from both you and from Ira this idea of belonging, of community, of sense of self, and sense of self embedded in community. You can't lose that. We're going to jump to the West Coast now. We're going to ask Karamjeet, what about you? What is your program? Why is it so necessary? And the role that it plays in girls' lives? Let us know.
Sure, thank you. So for me, I am an immigrant myself, and the way I relate to this program and also to the racialized girls is the way that there are some untraditional areas that we were not exposed or introduced to while we were growing up, say STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So the program that's funded for us through Canadian Women Foundation at DIVERSEcity Community Resources Society is STEM Girls Program. And one of the most common reasons, and I was doing my research and I was very surprised to know this is not only the thing with the country that I come from or other racialized girl, it's all over the world that women, they don't see the career in STEM, or they don't persist post-secondary studies because they lose interest in STEM curriculum, which some studies found that is related to women not self-identifying as scientists or feeling isolated or out of place in these programs or classes because they're greatly outnumbered by male peers, or they feel they're unequally treated by the professors and peers just with that stigma that they don't know, they don't have the technology mindset, or they're not seeing STEM field as a means to improve their lives, improve the lives of themselves or others. So the Power Girls or STEM Girls program, it has been created to provide a dedicated space to create a new approach to this programming. And the program aims at engaging racialized girls who are 9 to 12 years old. So we're hoping to create hands-on activities, and through specific guidance, these girls will be able to pursue a path to STEM while they're working on breaking the social norms and stereotype barriers that may hinder their path. So in the first cohort that we're running starting October 31st, girls will work on projects based engineering curriculum to explore the various fields of engineering, learn about the great achievements from female engineers, which is very, very important to highlight and make that connection for them, and build their own projects that demonstrate their learning. And while we were talking, I was reflecting on myself and my own daughter, who is 8 years old. My son plays soccer, and my daughter doesn't see soccer as something that she can take as a career, whereas my son is all about soccer. I'm thinking about Christine Sinclair. If I were to introduce my daughter to who Christine Sinclair is, and then she can think, and she can again like relate to someone who's the same gender, and she may think differently about this field. So it was funny how it was all making that connection for me. So we're hoping that this program that we're going to run at DIVERSEcity. So our hope is to invite girls, empower girls, and hopefully encourage them and motivate them to study STEM. And this program will inspire racialized girls to explore the less traveled path, I would say, in STEM sector. So that's our hope to run this program. And we're really thankful to the foundation for funding such programs for girls.
Thank you, Karen. It's one of these things that if you don't see yourself represented, if you don't see yourself in a field, how can you envision yourself and move forward towards that goal? I'm hearing that from a lot of people when they're speaking, especially around like just representation and mentorship in particular, being able to see elders, being able to see women that you can grow into. And it's just so important in an intergenerational space. I'm going to go to Ontario. I'm in Ontario. So hi, neighbor, Anna. Tell us about your community or organization, your community program that you're working with girls, and why it's important for girls in your area. Oh, Anna, we can't hear you. Thank you.
I'm muted, so I'm not making noises when others are speaking. I am a facilitator at our RISE program here at the Community Resource Center in Killaloe in Renfrew County. And Renfrew County is a very rural area in Ontario. We're quite spread out apart from each other. And our focus is, our RISE program is available for girls, non-binary, and all trans youth from ages 9 to 13. Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Duty call.
We have also just started with this funding cycle, mentor project as well. So that's just starting to get going. We've done that a little bit in the past, informally, but we're moving into another stage. So we're really excited to be doing that. Our program is a media program, although we really run quite holistic programming and find that that's really a great way to reach youth that are really connected to different sorts of things. So we also have a good focus on media literacy, arts activism, as well as a body positivity focus through food literacy and physical literacy. And our health center in this area has recently, or maybe not quite so recently, did a study and found that girls in our area, and I'm sure that this is true in various areas across Canada, don't get the opportunity to be as physical and don't get the opportunity to be out in the community, connected with nature, connected with their bodies and moving that boys do. And so the goal of our program is to foster confidence, critical thinking skills, and connection, to build the resiliency in girls to thrive as they grow up and become teenagers, move to high school, and into the rest of the world. And something that I think is really important and interesting at our program, because of our rural area, one of our real strengths is that we meet across diversity, because you need to be able to reach a larger group of people to have a real vibrant, thriving program that feels really relevant. And it's key to be able to include gender diverse youth in the work that we're doing here with RISE, as well as girls. And we really appreciate the support of the Canadian Women's Foundation with that vision, because there aren't spaces in a rural community for everyone to go separately. And that's not the world that we live in. We live all together. And so really being able to celebrate that diversity in our program has been something that we found is a really, really valuable thing for girls in our community, and really helps them identify with each other despite their diverse identities, and get that sense of connection and that strong sense of belonging that really helps them thrive.
Thank you very much. How beautiful is that you're creating spaces where girls can thrive together across differences, across all the spectrum of what it means to be a person, a human being, and that's really awesome. And I'm particularly mindful of the fact that trans youth, non-binary youth, two-spirit youth, youth of all sexualities and identities, gender diversities. Sometimes we forget when we're saying this blanket girl. So I want to hear actually a little bit more about how the pandemic is impacting girls. And I want to know what that looks like for girls in your community. And I'm thinking about all the diversities of what that might mean and how we can just think about this pandemic reality that we're seeing now and why this campaign is so important. So we're going to, I feel like I have so much power to be able to just move across the whole nation. I'm going to start with Ira again, actually, and tell us a little bit about that pandemic impact on the diverse girls that you are supporting today.
I think across all girls that we're supporting today, which is from grade 5 to 9 at the moment, is mental health. We see that the mental health of preteens and teens has been severely impacted. Their whole life has changed. Their school has been moved to online setting for most of us. They have general stresses about being in a pandemic, not trying to get infected. Some of the girls, they live in multi-generational families, so they don't have that access of going out and about in the world because they have to be careful of what they bring inside their homes anyway. Another thing that I see severely impacted is connection with peers. There's definitely that missing. More so in the summer when we did our summer programs and we had all the girls who had been in quarantine for 2-3 months. When they came back, the sheer joy of seeing another human being, and on top of that being able to relate to them, and on top of that talk about issues that are specifically concerning them. I think that was a very positive experience, and that was the feedback we got overall from our guardians as well. There's definitely a lack of personal space and privacy. I feel like as girls, we're always told what to do from 10 different things. But now imagine that 10 different things being told to you in a room, just with you alone, because it's so regulated our lives. Even if you're doing online programs or studying from home, you can't have that connection that you would have had with your friends if you were in school, perhaps, or in a community setting at a program at Women's Center where they could openly speak about issues that were concerning them, or just talk about things that happened at school or some sexist remark their peers have made and really talk about it. They're stuck at home, and most of the times we talk about a lot of topics that might be considered controversial as well. For example, healthy relationships and boundary setting. Like, what does that look like for a grade 5 girl? Boundary setting with her relatives and parents or guardians or friends in general, and how to build relationships. But how can you talk about healthy relationships and boundaries if you have your parents in the next room or siblings in the next room, like listening to every conversation you're having and every opinion you're going to give? So in general, I feel like these three things are, I see, mostly impacted because of pandemic for the girls.
Thank you so much. And how about Kathy? Let's go to the east side. Oh, I'm going to unmute you here to make sure. There we go.
Thank you. Perfect. So our girls here are experiencing a lot of the same stuff, of course. But in general, the girls that are impacted the most are the girls that thrive in the Indigenous community anyway, that thrive on coming to programs in order to maintain connected to their Indigenous community. So a lot of the girls deal with the exact same thing that Era was mentioning. But on top of that, they could be coming from a home that either is not equipped to support their Indigenous needs, or are just not welcoming that in their home. Because let's face it, not everyone is in a home where they feel safe enough to express themselves, let alone their cultural beliefs. So it's really difficult for them because they're not always in a home that's supportive of what they want to do. So on top of no longer having their routine, no longer having their friends to rely on their support, having to move to this virtual setting by calling your friends all the time to stay supported, they're now in a space where they have no Indigenous activity going on. They don't hear their language. A lot of Indigenous people believe that food is healing. So being able to receive your traditional foods like your wild meats, your berries, all that kind of stuff, and eating in a space filled with other Indigenous people, friendship, that's super important to making sure that we feel balanced as people. And so taking that out right away, we automatically feel unbalanced in our physical, mental, emotional, spiritual lives. And that it plays so much more in our day-to-day success than most people would consider. And it's really hard to describe to non-Indigenous people how important this is. But our girls are facing all the same kind of stuff, but on top of that, their issues with maintaining connected to their indigeneity is very, very difficult for them. And they don't really have anywhere to go aside from, a phone call. So that's the thing that sticks out to me the most, that I think other people in the panel today might not bring up, because I don't want to be too repetitive. But that's something that's really impacting our girls. And so that's something that First Light is maintaining a focus on, is making sure that we have that safe space for them to maintain everything, but also that little bit that could make or break the difference between being balanced and unbalanced in life.
Thank you, Kathy, for bringing that perspective, looking at what Indigenous girls particularly need. Let's go to the west side, Karamjeet.
Hi, to echo with Era about the universal challenges that all the girls are facing at this time particularly, I'll add a little bit context to the population that we are specifically working and focusing this program for, that will be newcomers and refugee families. So in addition to all the challenges that Era spoke about, it adds like hardship in finding employment and housing for newcomers and families, and overwhelming information that came out during the pandemic, even if it's supposed to be helpful information to know the benefits and whatnot. But there were challenges for non-English speakers in understanding new information and lack of knowledge on what rights do they have and how society functions in Canada, and facing isolation, which triggers some of the traumatic experiences that they've had as a family. So I am speaking for the family because girls are part of that family, and the overall mental health of family impacts the girls' mental health as well. So having limited access to technology, challenges in learning the fancy technology to stay connected with service providers. So We haven't had the chance to run the program. Our first cohort is running October 31st. I'm sure, these are the challenges that we are a little bit aware of that exist out for them. But once we start working with the girls, we will know, there are unique challenges that they're having within their own family setting, be it about, limited access to technology, or not having that private space to talk about what they want to talk about in the program. So we'll find out more as we get into the cohort starting October 31st.
Thank you for that so much. And you reminded me, we are only, month 7 in the pandemic? So things are still emerging. Anna, I'm curious, what's emerging for you in the communities you're serving as well?
Of course, we're experiencing some similar things. And yeah, the isolation here there is already great, vast physical isolation. People live very far apart from each other. People can't necessarily walk to each other's homes. Transportation is a huge barrier. And so the further situation that the pandemic has created for girls is pretty impactful. And the impact on mental health, we have definitely seen that at play. Food security has been a huge thing. People's jobs have been majorly impacted, and families are super stressed out. That's adding to some increased substance use, some increased violence at the home, and people are home together, and families are having a really difficult time. And that is going to impact girls. We notice that girls can end up taking on a lot of the stress that is at home, taking on a lot of extra childcare duties. Yep. Because younger siblings are at home and parents need that extra support. Daycares are not open in the same way they have been. There just isn't the same supports around, and that's falling to girls to be able to hold that up. In our area, in rural areas in particular, the internet is a huge stress. So many things have gone online. Schooling is online, people are working from online. Even the difference of the type of internet you can receive in town as opposed to if you live outside of town, the expense of that internet for a very, very small amount of internet access is like unbelievable. People can't be paying for that. And so the online accessing those things like school and work has been prioritized. It's very, very difficult for people to be accessing their peers through online and those peer supports and other supports that they may be able to access in an urban area. That's very, very difficult in a rural area. And we've seen that. I think people are starting to recognize that is a huge issue for rural areas in a wider context than that we had. So that is the good thing that's coming out of it. We're still far from being able to fix that situation right now.
Anna, thank you. I saw people nodding with that because I think this idea of a digital divide, we've had a digital divide for as long as there's been digital. But I think now, finally, there might be a little bit more serious recognition on why people need access to good technology, why it is a part of human dignity. It is not an entertainment thing. It is not just for, fun stuff. It is for key community, it is for work, it is for school, it is for all the things. I do hope that we see an improvement on these things. And I think any digital improvement, you have to think across intersectionalities, you have to think across access, across large land masses, all the things that are very unique to Canada that might not be unique to other places. So I want to just switch gears. You spoke, Anna, about some of this, and you other folks have also spoke to this idea of having to kind of pivot and do things differently in this reality. So I'm going to go to Kathy and ask, how are you changing your programming to make sure that you're meeting the needs of young people?
So our programs kind of did a huge flip when the pandemic happened. So before the pandemic, we had this fantastic center that I'm in that everyone would come to. It's a giant hub for Indigenous people and also allies that are in St. John's and surrounding areas. And we would all come together and we would experience activities together that could be directly cultural in nature or just have underlying cultural things. Like we have, we do Indigenous crafts here, but the next day we'll have a yoga program that plays the First Nations drum as people are doing yoga, or they could have the hula glit. So before, it was a giant space that was friendly and it was filled with people and it was laughing and it was support and it was great. Then the pandemic hit and no one was allowed outside. And we had a bunch of our community members are from extended families or families with older people or immunocompromised people. So they weren't allowed to go out at all. So what we did was that we immediately took a leap of faith into the virtual world and said, you know what, we're going to do this. And all of our programs went virtual in ways that the community wanted. So they said Zoom would work. So we moved our programs to Zoom. And for other programs, they said Zoom doesn't really work for us. So we would like Facebook Live videos that we could watch later. That's what we did. And so we moved all of that stuff. And thankfully, we were able to continue things like we would deliver activity kits to our participants, so that way they could still craft at home, which is a huge healing thing for Indigenous peoples, being able to craft. And we would deliver food supports to them at home, so that way they could still get their traditional meals and just general food to be healthy. Our cultural supports went online and went via the phone. We did whatever we could so that way we could meet the needs of everybody. And we just took that leap of faith with our community, and together we did a great job of it, I must say. We had some excellent feedback from our community, and the second that things started changing and the world started opening up again, our community said, you know what, you guys did great with the virtual, but we're really sick of it. We need to come together, because Indigenous people are really about that society. Because when you think of where we came from in our rural settings, we were used to providing for the whole community, not just our own families. So without that, we felt really lost, and I'm definitely one that felt it the most. So as soon as the world opened up, we were like, okay, we need to get together, we need to do something. So we started going back into our in-person programs with limited numbers of people, and we were extremely health conscious, because we do recognize that we have some amazing people that are immunocompromised and that are older. We need to take care of our elders. So we did a lot of outdoor stuff where people could be physically distanced, and that way they could still be together but be on the land, which is super healing. And we were very creative. A lot of the stuff that we do involves bringing in facilitators from other parts of the province, from other parts of the country, to help facilitate things culturally that we may not have expertise in here. And normally that's really easy for us to do, but with the pandemic, we had to move to a virtual setting, which was cool because we could still get people come do virtual stuff in Labrador. And now that when the Atlantic bubble opened, we're actually having some guests come in from other places like Nova Scotia, and they can still spearhead activities that are really culturally relevant. And our community here is still working to bring a lot of the cultural stuff back that was taken from us. And so they come in and they help us with that. And we're so very grateful that we actually can do that. But our community is maintaining very positive, and it's not just First Light in general, it's our whole community is working together to keep our culture strong and keep our community healthy.
That's fabulous. So great to hear that even though you're running girls programs and we're so focused on girls, we have to remember that girls are not in isolation. They're part of a community. And it's so lovely to hear how you just were making sure that everybody can get involved, even with the risk. And you're doing the best that you can to bring people together, to keep people safe along the way. I really appreciate that insight. We're going to move to Karamjeet. What about you? How are you folks pivoting to make sure that you can continue doing what you got to do in this context?
So for us, again, as we are starting our programming, this Saturday, we're really excited for that. So I guess there were a few key elements that our staff had to consider. One was to make sure that the girls have access to technology when they're participating in the program. So our idea is to facilitate session virtually, having the girls. So we are going to deliver the kits to the girls, and a facilitator will be online or virtually available, and encouraging the girls to participate in group discussions to make it more interactive rather than a YouTube lesson on do it yourself kind of thing. So that's what we're trying to do. But as much as we're looking forward to it, a part of me feels like if it were non-pandemic world, the girls would have really enjoyed this in-person programming where there would have been food and those organic discussions with peers and getting to know each other. So they may still feel a bit isolated while they're still virtually connected, because we are all different individuals with a different comfort level to participate in this virtual world. So some of us may be camera shy and need a little bit more time to build that trust and rapport with the group, and also to trust the facilitator and opening up their mind and engaging in discussions. So all those pieces. So we're moving in with that awareness and consciousness, and trying to again, invite the girls to open up so we can adopt our programs and cater to their needs, cater to their individual needs, I would say.
A lot of catering to individual needs is what I'm hearing. Kathy, you were speaking about how you had to listen to what the community said and take your direction there, as opposed to jumping ahead and saying, this is what we're going to do. Ira, I'm wondering about that as well for you in the BC context.
Oh, I'm from
Alberta
Alberta.
context, yes, sorry. Got my areas mixed up. Go ahead.
It's okay, it's a vast country. Um, well, some of the challenges we definitely face, I think one big thing that came a highlight was definitely loss of community for girls and women who come to Women's Center, who use our programs, who contribute their time and effort to a women's center in general in building that community. There was definitely that loss of community. We felt that we are working really hard on rebuilding. In terms of program specific, the pandemic definitely changed how open concept we had. Like, we are a drop-in program. Our registration are free of charge, and we welcome everyone. We're very trust-based, and also we don't have like 10 different requirements for you to join our program and use our services. But that we had to regulate it, because we couldn't have as many girls as we would like in our program space. We had to limit it to 10 to 12 girls. Additionally, we had to change our times and whatnot, but we adapted to it by listening to our community, listening to girls and their guardians, and basically going ahead with the in-person programming and online programming. So we expanded from only doing in-person programming thrice a week to doing online and in-person programming thrice a week, and also conducting many more events where girls and guardians could come and be with their communities. Our community is quite diverse. I haven't met a single person that is identical to the other in the Women's Center. And I'm sure this is like, obviously, duh. But at the same time, it's really interesting, because when you get to know these girls and get to know their families, they all have their individualized experiences. And in doing that, they also have some individual needs. So through our program, what we have done is we have kept the open registration policy, where girls can register with us anytime and drop by. The only requirement is that they have to be we need to have a maximum of 10 girls in a room. Other part is we moved online, which we have expanded to all of Calgary and in neighboring communities.
Wow.
So girls from those communities can also join in. We have about 28 girls registered in our online program from grade 5 to 7. And it's a constant relationship building and communication with the guardians and girls and volunteers who contribute so much of their time with us to make sure we are keeping those leadership and activism aspects of our program, and also building that community that supports girls, so that in future girls can support the communities in return. And don't want to take too much time, but a lot of times, a lot of our resources have gone into translating what we do in person to online setting, and making sure that they have resources to make empowering decision, make educated choices for themselves, and learn about their leadership abilities. We have introduced, because of Canadian Women's Foundation, we have introduced the basic needs kits for girls, which basically provides things like shampoo, tampons, pads, and everything. We have the girls have their own bathrooms where they can access their menstrual products without having to ask anyone, which I find is very empowering. We also have had supplies, 28 packages sent out all over Calgary and neighboring communities so that girls can participate in craftism and things like that. And it would not happen possible if we didn't have that funding. And even if we, like, if the girls didn't demand it, because these are the things that girls wanted from our online and in-person programs.
Era, I'm hearing folks talk about kits. Everybody's got a different kind of kit that they got to send out to people. Anna, tell us about your context.
Sorry, I'm trying to mute myself again. So we also went online over the summer. But as I had mentioned before, the internet is a big issue for us. So that really wasn't a format that was a great fit for our community. And we were really hearing that our participants were really ready to be meeting again in person. They really missed that peer interaction face to face. So we are pivoting now to small group, in person, and outdoors. So our programming is all outdoors right now, and that is, we're still learning a lot about that process. Just all of the things that are involved with taking our program outside, a little bit more mobile. We're still doing things like sharing food together. The importance of eating together and that food element has been something that our youth really, really value. And that was one of the things that they said, that they just weren't okay with us not being able to have snack. And so we're learning how to do that outside. And as it gets colder, it will be interesting how it goes, but we've always been pretty resilient and enjoyed that outside space. So, and it's sort of opened up a new possibility of, all right, maybe we're going to see if we can learn a little bit more about firekeeping and, you know, some different things that we may not have considered in the past, and a little bit more of our outdoor environment. And so it's opening some doors, presenting some new challenges, but it was very clear to us that we really needed that in-person connection. So trying to figure out how we can make that possible. And we knew it was going to be difficult to restrict our numbers to keep us inside at only, 10 kids. We knew we were going to need to probably be able to be a little bit bigger than that. So we decided we're going to go outside. And it's been working pretty good. Kits have also been really helpful. And I think that we will continue to do a little bit of our online programming as well, which we're still working on developing how that's going to work out. But we did end up sending out kits to I think it was about 46 kids, the kits to kids that were over a radius of about an hour drive away. And even if we hadn't been seeing those faces on our Zooms or in our in-person programming, the feedback that we got that the youth could receive something at home, that girls could have something that they could, a little journal, some sort of, some tea and cookies, some care items, a squishy. Those were really important things for our youth, just that little bit of sparkle to get them through before schools open again, when they were feeling such isolation and loneliness. That was really something that was important and key. So I'm not surprised that other organizations are doing similar things. And it really helps people be able to be in the same space when you have something that's similar at your spot. And then you can connect over that online platform in a way that you can't necessarily do if you don't have some of the same things together. Yeah, so that was helpful.
Thank you, Anna. This is not the same. Doing this, what we're doing right now, not even comparable. I'm happy we have some access, but you're just pointing out to me how important it is for us to be in person. And I'm so pleased to hear Anna and Kathy, you folks are doing outdoor things. That's really cool. And Karamjeet and Ira, you might also be doing some outdoor things when you can. It's really wonderful to hear. I'm in the Greater Toronto area, so it really feels very isolating, how you can be around millions of people and feel so isolated. How much more so, Anna, when you're speaking about being in that kind of remote context as well. Now, we are running out of time. We could speak all day about this. I just have a million questions, but we do have to let you get back to your work. But I do want to ask you, as we close down, I want to ask each of you to tell us what you would like to see us in Canada at large or in your specific community do to show up for girls right now, today, what you want to see. We're going to start with Karamjeet.
Wow, I'm put on the spot. I think I'll just didn't have this ready, but I think doing what we're doing, right now, this moment, talking about sharing thoughts and getting some amazing ideas from, this could be, experimented through some of it like outdoors and, just like hybrid model and just again hearing from other people on board today. And again also this is an ongoing conversation with our participants as well, and that's where we want to take our lead from. This program is for girls. Yes, we can have million ideas how we can show up for girls, but how do they want us to show up for them is really important to me. So I'm really waiting for that Saturday to come and hear from girls what works for you and how can we make it work for us, all of us together. So that's my message for today, letting them share what would they want us to do for them.
So it's up to us, Karamjeet, to listen. Thank you very much for sharing that. Kathy, what would you like to see people do to show up for girls?
So when I think about our girls, I think about all the different kinds of levels of society that we need to do something. So for me, I think about, the families with girls in them. I want them to constantly, check in with their girls, see how they're doing, be cognizant of if they have multiple siblings, are they getting pushed down? Are their voices getting muted? Or are they pretending like everything's okay? Just be cognizant of the fact that they may not be as okay as they seem. And to make sure that they have that family time, not only of doing what you think that they need to do, but what they say that they want and what they need. And on a community level, again, checking in. If you are in a family that's in a neighborhood where you see a lot of girls around, just do some cool art on your window, lay out some chalk, let them have fun. Just show them that you're there for them and that their community loves having them around, because they're going to end up being leaders one day, and we need them to be the most positive leaders that we can have, and we want them to have a strong voice. And I mean, Canada in general, I want to see more interaction with the girls specifically. And I get that we need to help all young people in general, but girls have just this magic about them. And in Indigenous communities, there's a reason why we're matriarchal, because there's just something special about girls that can grow into strong women. And I really think that we need to not just have programs where they can come and take part in something, but have programs that stimulate their brain and that they can actually interact with. So many times we're given programs like, yes, come in and do gymnastics. And the girls go in, they're like, yes, I'm meant to do gymnastics because I'm a girl. And then they go in, they're like, you stand here, you do this, flick your foot this way, don't think about it, just do it. And I think as a society in whole, we need to give them more space for creativity and give them more space to experience different things. So let's get creative, Canada.
Love it. Love that. Oh, girls taking the lead. Ira, what about you?
Well, I couldn't say anything better. Like Karamjeet and Kathy have covered it all. I think to add to all of that, I feel like really recognizing that girls have been through sexism, racism, heterosexism, colonialism, and poverty. They have experienced it, and their experiences are valid. So recognizing that, and also in Canada in general, but also as adults in general, like really keeping your adultism in check, and you know. Keeping your adultism in check. They are humans too. They have their minds. They're wonderful, brilliant experiences that they have because they're a girl, because of their uh, race, ethnicity, and cultural backgrounds and what more. So we need to recognize that and not think of them as empty vessels. We have to guide them to a stage with their traditional notions of leaderships, but listening to them, validating their experience, and empowering them to grow into the wonderful women they're going to be.
Adults, let's listen to this. We really do sometimes talk over and think over young people, and we create a lot of the problems, I feel, sometimes when we do that. So Anna, you.
Some wonderful things have been said in these last few minutes here, and I really want to echo that. So yeah, listen, make space, donate to Girls Fund Canada. These programs make a lasting impact, not only for girls, but for the larger community. I have noticed that here in my community, there is a sense of pride that we have this program here, and the conversation is expanding beyond our program into the community, into families, a deeper understanding of what the issues that girls face. And it's something that we really need to keep fostering in all across Canada. So that's how, that's throwing the gauntlet, donate to Girls Fund. And it's been really wonderful to be part of this for sure.
Oh, thank you, folks. We love you folks so much, and we just appreciate the work that you are doing every day. It is not easy, and I know. We've been there at the foundation, and some of us have a background in community work, and it's tough. So many thanks to you. As much as it's tough, it's also a joy. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing. And just to reiterate what Anna said, you said it. Donate to the Girls Fund. I think it's so interesting how there's a lot of conversations about how the pandemic is impacting women. There's a lot of conversation about how it's a gender dynamic, that anybody who faces gendered inequality, that they're going to be impacted in a particular way. But I always wonder when I'm hearing these discussions, are we thinking about young people? Are we thinking about girls? Are we thinking about what the young people in our communities are facing that's so unique to them? And we got a wonderful opportunity here to hear from folks working directly with young people, just a glimmer of some of what they're going through right now. So I just want to share with you, please, if you are able to give this October, we have just a few more days left in October. October 31st is coming up soon. And with the help of Sinking Ship Entertainment and Giant Tiger, every dollar you donate to the Girls Fund in this campaign will be tripled. So every dollar turns into $3. And we want to raise $75,000 to give to girls programs all across the country. It makes a difference for young people, as you've seen, and a lot of people right now, they have to give to new things, and they have to create new ways of programming. That doesn't come for free, and that is not easy. So they need support. And whether it be giving people little kits that they should be able to craft and do the things they want to do, whether it be participating in a digital program or an in-person small group program, all these things had to happen in the pandemic reality. And you're seeing the innovation, but I don't want to suggest think about innovation and think about resilience and bank on that, we have to support the resilience. We have to build up the innovation, and that takes funds. So any dollar you can give to this campaign will go to $3 as a result of our partners. Thank you, Giant Tiger and Sinking Ship Entertainment. And I really hope that we'll see a really good influx of support for these girls programs that we've had a chance to talk to. And just with that, I just want to thank you folks for joining us. I want to thank everybody for listening today. And I want to encourage you, please go to CanadianWomen.org for more information about just what we're doing and the different programs that we're supporting, particularly the Show Up for Girls campaign. And just, we're going to leave you with a little bit of a video to inspire you from Sinking Ship Entertainment, the cast of Lockdown, a really great show that has come up in the pandemic with young people, just showing how they're impacted by the pandemic. And it's a really great show that you can watch on YouTube for kids and families. We just want to leave that with you so that you'll be inspired to think about young people, the impact today, and what you can do to show up for girls this October. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of the day.
Hey, my name is Sarah Chaudhry, and I play Nira on Lockdown. This October, we're partnering with the Canadian Women's Foundation to show up for girls.
The impact of COVID-19 on girls' mental health is deepening.
And girl-focused programs that help girls find belonging, community, and mentorship are struggling to stay open.
We need to act now to make sure that girls in Canada of all backgrounds and identities get the support they need.
Join us this October to show up for girls.
Every dollar you give to girls programs at CanadianWomen.org will be tripled up to $20,000 thanks to Sinking Ship Entertainment and Giant Tiger.
And we want you to share how you're showing up for girls in your life.
Whether you're a parent,
guardian,
family member,
an educator,
mentor,
or friend.
Share your stories and inspiration using the hashtag #ShowUpForGirls.
it's more important than ever.
So let's get all of Canada
To show up for girls.